going to accumulate or secure $1 million portfolio, whatever you have in your portfolio right now. So I'll just give you an idea why I decided to choose this topic in the first place. Because first of all, people always have a number in their mind. And I heard this from actually a lot of people. They use the number 1 million, whether it's US dollars or $1 million pound. A lot of people aim for $1 million. So for example, Malaz, you're in Ontario, and Kevin, you're in Vancouver right now. And of course you're traveling. However, considering your home base, is it hard to accumulate $1 million in equity from your home if you already own a home?
Nope.
No. But if I ask you, is it easy to secure another $1 million in equity or in your portfolio? Is that easy to do?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Because now you're educated. So for a lot of people, they don't know where to start when it comes to $1 million. And I heard this actually from a podcast. I don't know if you know Gary Vee, if you listen to Impact Theory. So what happened is when they interview people, when they hire employees, they ask them, if you can ask for anything, what would you be asking for? So a lot of people, just on the top of their head, funny enough, they all ask for $1 million. They say, hey, if I have $1 million, then that's that. I can retire. I can reach my financial goal. So that's where I have the $1 million portfolio income idea coming from. So I use a lot of numbers when I go through, say, financial education to get people started. If it's bigger than that number, funny enough, people don't ask for more than that. So for a lot of people, it's not easy to fathom beyond that number. And that's why I chose that number. And to get us started, even though I'm not a trained financial planner, I look at it from the perspective of an investor. So what are we going to do? What are we going to start? So reach out to your lawyers, reach out to, for example, your bankers. So anybody that could be on your power team. And I know, like the both of you on my screen right now, you're not completely new. If I ask you, hey, Kevin, can you secure another $1 million in your portfolio? Who are you going to reach out to on your power team? You're going to reach out to the banks? Okay. Yeah. What about Malaz? Who are you going to reach out to?
I will check my investor database, my investor spreadsheet.
So you're going to be raising funds from,
yes.
For example, your joint venture partners?
Yes. Yeah.
Potential JVs, potential investors?
Yeah. Or hit my mortgage broker.
Okay. So that's a very good point. You all have just listed who are supposed to be on your power team. And by the way, I'm working on my corporate tax right now. One person I'm going to ask is, hey, my accountant, how am I going to perhaps be more efficient on my tax filing so I can find another even 50,000, 100,000, whatever it might be, or your tax advisor and your lawyers. By the way, I know both of you have really young kids, and my kids are older now. So when he reaches 18, I realize he's 18 now. What am I going to do in order to support him? He no longer needs a guardian in case something happened to us. So your plan's supposed to be consistently changing depending on your life situation. So I know, Kevin, all of a sudden you're traveling so much. Are you really going to be active in the market? Or are you going to invest from abroad? Is that your plan?
Still, that's like a power team, right? To help me out. Location doesn't mean anything.
There you go. So you do have location freedom. The only thing I found is that sometimes it's difficult because not everybody is working at the same time. Not everybody's working while you're working, or they don't know you're on the flight, Kevin. I don't usually tell them that I'm in a different time zone. Because again, entrepreneurs, they know that we're flexible, that we can be reached. And I know, Kevin, it's 7 a.m. Perhaps you're still checking your emails, looking at different deals, regardless. And what enables you to do that? Your power team.
Yeah.
Right? There you go. So Again, I look at it from the perspective as an investor. So you don't have to be there. You don't have to be the working partner actively, say, managing the property, fixing something, or if the toilet is clogged, you don't have to be there. However, you have to realize how to utilize other people's wisdom, how to utilize other people's strength or their courage. That's what I put under the investor hat. That's the shirt. As a seasoned investor, you have to understand how to really leverage. If you're not the smartest, you're not the strongest, you're not the most courageous, really your job is to make sure you know how to plan, you know how to lead. And regardless, I mean, a lot of the times, perhaps you're shy, perhaps you're not even there. There's really a lot we can do considering your ability to build a power team in any market. By the way, I just want to see a show of hand. You're investing in 3 or more markets right now, even if you're passive. So also, Richard, thank you for joining us. So even though, I mean, all of us are at different places. Richard in the States, I'm back in Canada, and Kevin is on the other side of the world, doesn't matter. So today, the format is slightly different. We're a roundtable discussion. So if you think about how you're gonna get the most out of it, I know we're all active investors, and just because there's only so many of us, so Richard, we're gonna do a roundtable discussion today. So if you're able to join, it looks like you're on a bus, so we can study and learn anywhere. Regardless, I know as long as you focus, you participate, and here, even though you might be watching from YouTube with us today, acquisition of knowledge just to get you started. And I do hope whatever we're learning today, at least you get some satisfaction from applying. And then the next step is to really utilize the knowledge and you'll feel the fulfillment. And I don't know if you're familiar with the 5 values that trust your talent. Personally, I chose fulfillment this year as my focus because I do believe you have to start taking care of yourself first and then fulfill yourself first. To fill your bucket first before you can fill other people's buckets, before you can really feel the joy. So perhaps you're focusing on health. This year, I feel relatively healthy. However, at the same time, this is also something we consistently have to remind ourselves. Physical health, mental health, and etc. Your spiritual, your growth is also a big part of it. I know I spoke to Kevin, if you don't mind me saying this, I know you're focusing on growth, focusing on yourself. Is fulfillment a big part of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So having kids, having young kids, do you feel that sometimes you don't really have control over your time?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. Melaz, do you feel that too sometimes?
Always feeling overwhelmed. And the different stages require different skills and different timing and a different requirement. So yeah, definitely. And just like you said, I also feel like I need to start focusing on sustainability myself. I guess that's how I see it more, is because I can't keep grinding 24 hours, for so long. After a while, I get burned out. So it's important to keep a steady baseline and have a consistent but continuous growth without burning myself out.
Exactly. And we're hoping that all our babies are like this baby, just sit quietly and learn. However, you're an adult, so I'm pretty sure you can participate, you can focus. One of the hardest thing I see that for a lot of new investor is to put yourself out there. So it's not hard for me to ask you to read, even if I give you a list of books to get you started. Hearing the words, sitting quietly, or if you're watching the recording right now on YouTube, that's not hard to do. However, I would challenge you to take it to the next level. I know sometimes you're probably out in the setting where you're networking with other people, then you start to see and hear what other people are doing at the same time. I listen to Jim Rohn a lot. So today he happened to say that, hey, even for me to teach, I say it and repeat it. That's 90% of the learning and even beyond. So yes, it's fulfillment, and I'm willing to give. At this point, if you have any questions, I'm open to answer any questions, and sometimes it's a good challenge. However, if you're new, you're watching this, one way of doing it is to repeat what you have learned. And another thing is even Melez, Kevin, Richard, whoever's on the screen right now, even if there's one or two things that could be said differently, or I know this is supposed to be for new investors. However, today, since you're all here, I challenge you to consider it as a way of speaking to your investors. Especially, we have ongoing courses right now. Raising fund communication is what's been going on at Trust Your Talent. What if you're meeting a new investor? Can you repeat? Can you say, for example, demonstrate how a strategy works in 5 minutes if they only give you 5 minutes? So I heard this. I don't know if it's legend that, for example, if you're going to have a meeting with Elon Musk in 5 seconds, if there's nothing new, no information, nothing he thinks that he could learn from the meeting, he'll walk out. And I don't know if you read a lot of negotiation books, a lot of the times people give you 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So I know that you're here for advanced training. However, give people the opportunity to ask you questions. Challenge yourself to go through different strategies and explain to investors, for example, like Melez said, if I ask you how you're going to increase your portfolio by $1 million, you're going to reach out to your potential investors, right? So yes, repeat it, or even go to your wife after our discussion. However, the most important thing is have some fun. Today, the setting is slightly different, and we do want to encourage participation in the future for newcomers, for new attendees. So it's a good start. We're having a roundtable discussion today. So unmute yourself. If you have anything you would like to raise your hand and contribute at the moment. Also, remember that, hey, we're investment geeks. So we're always going to have fun talking about investments. And I want you to remember that feeling. Remember how much fun it could be. Just even imagine what it does for you in terms of your financial goals. And I use this illustration a lot. However, by the time you're a seasoned investor, you don't have to follow the 4% rule. For the sake of discussion, that, hey, perhaps you've heard the $1 million 4% rule. That rule means that if you have $1 million, by the way, it's working capital. If it's sitting there in the equity of your house, you're not really even making 4% of cash flow. Of course, there's appreciation. However, that is a more advanced discussion. If we just look at the 4% rule, go to your financial planner. It's often how they plan for your retirement. They will grow your portfolio to $1 million, whether you're 30 years old, so you have another 35 years. And if you're like me, you're more than halfway done in your career. 15 years, how quickly can you run? And I see a lot of financial statements of the students. Everybody's at a different stage. However, one thing in common is that if everybody follows the system, you will see the cash flow. You will see freedom fighters, financial freedom fighters, reaching their goal. So if I look at 4% rule, I do hope that by the end of our discussion today, you'll see that you can get more than 6% or even 8% of return on investment. However, just in general, we don't guarantee a return on investment. By the way, when you talk to your investor, when you advertise your deal, that's not legal to say, hey, this rent to own, for example, gives you 42.71% of return. Again, you can say roughly, you can give them the number to analyze. However, that's one thing. Do things ethically and legally and know what you're able to do. Regardless, my point is, by the end of even this webinar, I know it's for beginners, I want you to see that there are opportunities out there. Not loan shark, you can get double-digit return. To be conservative, let's say 4% rule. If you want to have at least $75,000 of annual income, 4% rule, because $75,000 is basically the average income and expenses. In Canada, you need $1.8 million. So even though I'm aiming for $1 million today, if you want to live an average life, you need to have 1.8, 1.9 just sitting there, not doing anything. I'm not even talking about the equity in your house, because that's piggy bank. You're not supposed to move, or you're not able to move in order to have a place to live. The median net worth in Canada is 3.3. I think that number is slightly better today. However, if you look at a lot of the data, most of the time the rich got richer. The median income stays the same. The lower income, the gap gets bigger and bigger. However, because the rich is pulling the average, perhaps you're seeing I'm using the median, meaning the middle. The median usually don't change much. However, the average a lot of the times increase because the rich gets richer. And we always say, hey, the middle class is shrinking. Which way do you want to be? We're all looking in the future, and we're working in the present moment. Do you want to be the higher end of the spectrum, or you want to fall off? Education teaches us to be middle class, to have an average income. However, middle class is shrinking. So just to give you some numbers to start the discussion regarding retirement, 90% of the population spent every dollar they earned. And I can see that expenses are going up. So a quarter of the Canadians are not able to cover expenses that's $500 or more. And that's true for a lot of family. What do people do? Yes, they cut expenses. However, when you think about wealth, especially when students are, for example, you're working towards your financial freedom goal, there's only so much you can cut. However, your potential to earn is unlimited. You still have to eat. You still have to have roof over your head. You still have to travel. So yes, you can look at opportunities to cut expenses. However, there's only so much you can do. So let's look at the potential where you can really run. And how do you compare depending on your age group? So I used the number 329 earlier, that's medium. So when you're around 30 to 40 or even your early 40s, that might be the number. However, you're in the group now. I do hope that you're aiming to be, if you're not average yet, aim to be that 50%, aim to be that 10% as your next goal. So in class, for example, we will look at your net worth. Where are you today? This is just a snapshot. And a lot of the times when I talk about RSP investment, really the government is now, or 401k in the States, the government now is putting the responsibility on you to plan for your retirement. I do think everybody should be responsible for themselves. However, when the majority is not trained, how are they going to be able to retire? So, by the way, if you do have anything to contribute, there's just as it's a round table, and mute yourself. Okay? Do a quick tech check. Everything good? You can see everything clearly, hearing me clearly? Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Maybe my end.
So this is just information on, hey, how much RSP is out there. Or 401k, for example. Funny enough, a lot of the times when I look at the numbers, it's so much US dollars and it's so much Canadian dollars, even though our currency doesn't worth as much. Regardless, that gives you an idea where people are. So no, most people are not there yet. I love using RSP because I know a lot of your investors right now might have good jobs. Actually, I'm all for working because I'm working right now. If your investor love their job, we do need people who love their job and contribute. And they don't know what to do with their investment. Before you even get into investing, just show the data. By the way, if you're talking to investors, I think like today, we talk about, hey, I'm gonna go through actually 3 main strategies in 5 minutes, because I do want you to have an idea what it is like to look at different strategy and present it in a way. So every year, one of the easiest thing to do is to talk about yourself, right? However, if I think Kevin, you and I had this conversation too. Sometimes we're really harsh on ourselves, especially there's a lot of overachievers or entrepreneurs. They do want to achieve a lot, and we actually give a lot. even though we are having fun talking about time freedom, even though it's 7 o'clock in the morning for Kevin, for example, yes, we do have time freedom. And Richard, we had this discussion too. However, that doesn't mean you're not putting in the hours, you're not putting in the effort. And a lot of the times, your mental space as well. So start from your why. I know when you have kids, it's easy. I think they automatically gives us a purpose. They're so innocent. We see them from day one. It's not hard to see. Hey, we love them. We really want to provide. Extend that love. And then now you're in the community. I would love to give whatever I've learned as an investor. And collectively, we say trust your talent. Collectively, all of us, yes, I'm a mentor. However, trust your talent as a whole is a mentor for the whole community at the same time. So if you just go back and speak from the heart. So Kevin, I saw your video. Yes, speak from the heart. That's the easiest way to find your why. It might change. However, don't constantly change your goal. Perhaps it seems harder. Pivot, and the end goal should still be the same. Think about why are you here today? I know you're here to support. And other than that, if you're thinking back, sitting in the seat as a new investor, and I do hope even though you're trained investors now, there's still something we're learning from each other. So if you're here today and I mentioned to you, hey, we're going to go through so many different strategies. Because even though we're talking about scaling to another $1 million, it's not just me. I think everybody should be able to do that. By the way, if you think that, hey, $1 million is not a hefty goal, I want to aim higher. Sure, aim for $5 million, same thing. If we consistently do the same thing, what are you going to do to help yourself reach that goal? Can anybody share what your why is at this moment? I usually give the 5 values as a prompt. Malas, Kevin, Richard, you want to share what your why is right now? Richard, looks like you're trained.
Yes, I am, and the train is started. My why is to build a sizable enough real estate portfolio and have enough passive income to retire my partner Kevin from, and it's not Kevin that we're seeing on the screen, by the way, my partner Kevin from working for his W-2. And by the way, Brooke, I believe we have a new attendee.
Oh, I do want to recognize. Okay, thank you. I'm just curious because Richard and Kevin, you don't have kids yet. Have you thought about even longer terms? Because I think to retire Kevin is pretty much in the near future.
We'll see. He's well into the 6 figures, so you know it gets a little, the bar gets higher and higher as we go along. But to answer your question, I do want kids, and it's expensive to raise kids. It's expensive to get kids for us because we may have to go through adoption or surrogacy, so that gets also complicated. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Kevin?
For me, it's to, because I have 2 kids and I want to make the most positive life-lasting memory for them and also prepare them for the future. Whether it's AI future or whatever future that's coming up next, I want to prepare them for the best.
I also want to point out you have $1 million family with boy and girl, right?
Yeah, and also helping people along the way. I think that's drives me every day. That helps me wake up early in the morning. Even though right now I have the freedom, I have the time freedom, location freedom. I think that's something we need to live with the purpose. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So, and by the way, I see new people joining us. Feel free to raise your hand if you have something to contribute. At the same time, if you're driving, if you're eating, if you're still working, I get that. And I still appreciate you spending the time and investor time here. So we're here to support you. Usually the first step not just listening to me talking. Also, reach out to your strategy coach. Whatever I just said is basically helping you reach your financial goal. So, Malas, if you don't mind, I do want to pull out the poll. Oh my God, that's a hard word to say. And I mean, there's just so many of us. We don't have to put in the answer. However, can you pull it out? I just want to share if you're thinking, hey, where am I today? If you are in big cities, like I said, you own more than $1 million in equity, including real estate. Because even in the community, a lot of us invest in different things. Paper asset, for example, or some people have businesses. Perhaps you have shares in your business, whatever it may be. So just look at the chart. I'm not putting anybody in the position to reveal where you are financially right now. However, if you're already sitting in $1 million in equity or more in real estate alone, think about how you're going to scale another $1 million. It is doable. However, I do see that if you set a time frame, there's a lot of things that you might want to consider. So number one, if you already have $1 million, how do you utilize the equity to get yourself to the next million, for example? And if you have less than $1 million in real estate, actually, personally, I'm just feeling really lucky to be in Toronto. When I had no idea how real estate worked, I had equity in my property. And again, that's just cherry on top. It's not something I could control. On the flip side, maybe the property value will go down. You never know. And the next thing is, I have more than $1 million, perhaps not in real estate yet. And then maybe consider the possibility of diversing, okay? And by the way, you can be honest, you don't know how to calculate your net worth and you don't know if you have $1 million, totally fine. That's checked. And call to action, reach out to strategy coaches or myself. We'll send you a spreadsheet so you know where you are. Because you have to know where you are, where to aim in order to be where you want to be. Okay, so we can end the poll, Malas. Thank you for pulling it out and share the results with everybody. So really, I just want to see where you are and kind of give yourself an idea. We constantly gauge, constantly reflect where we are. So the next time we're going to meet, hopefully I do want to see everybody in person at the workshop. The next one will be in Vancouver, live for 3 days. It is summer. I actually am thinking about bringing my kids. Now, they can read numbers, and after grade 10, really, you can calculate ROIs, return on investment. You can consider different possibilities and run the numbers. So I do hope to see you live in Vancouver. And also today, thank you for joining the webinar. Every time I'm putting up a topic, I do hope that it's something that might inspire you and something you'd be thinking about. I constantly look for inspiration for that. So another reason I chose $1 million is that a lot of people are aiming for six figures of annual income, passive annual income perhaps. So if you have working capital, I don't mean if you have $1 million, but that's tied up somewhere, you bought company shares and you're not able to sell it, whatever it is, if you have $1 million of working capital, just 10% of return. I'm not guaranteeing anything. Again, this is for learning purposes, not doing anything illegal. If you are able to generate 10%, and I will show you examples of how to generate 10% of return. $1 million, if you can do it consistently, every year you'll have 100,000 in passive income. So that's why easy numbers, easy concept. That's why I love to use simple numbers for you to go through and think about what to aim for. So we love to pay it forward, like we said, and thank you for student ambassadors for being here. So we do want to pass it forward. We do have incentives if you're existing students coming to the workshop. And just because you're here, I'll also give you a code, a discount for going to the workshop. And you can bring one more attendee to come with you. I encourage you to bring your business partners or, for example, your spouse, your partner in life. And let's get to it. So like I mentioned, we went through some real estate investing fundamentals. These are the things you might be considering. Some of the basics, regardless of what strategies, what market you're in, the fundamentals are the same. So if you take advanced classes with Trust Your Talent, you'll see that, hey, we went through the same thing. And yes, it all starts from you. I know sometimes it sounds cliche. At the same time, every year or even every quarter, every half a year when I review, things might change. Just like I said, all of a sudden my kid is an adult. So you do have to reconsider changes in life. Perhaps something happened in your family. Health is usually the biggest thing. So if you have to deal with taking care of your family, your time, your travel schedule might be changing, really all starts from you. Things might change. It could be you, it could be your spouse, and you're standing on top of your community, your purpose, and who you really are. What it translates to is what kind of goal you might have. So we look at portfolio income, earned income, passive income. So I will explain what they are and what different strategies will contribute to different buckets of income. So when you start every event strategy, we look at, hey, does it fit your goal? Does it fit your time schedule? Again, once you're the bank, like I mentioned, if you have $1 million in working capital, if you don't right now, perfectly fine. You're learning to make your money run a little bit faster at this point. So private lending, perhaps you're the bank, and paper asset, like quite a few of us in the group right now are learning about paper assets, how to passively generate income. And these options, income properties could be a small multi, 3 unit, 4 unit, even 1 unit, whatever it is. I call it income properties only if they generate cash flow. If you're property collectors, they're not generating income. Even if you have 100 units, they're not income properties to you. So make sure you understand how the numbers work, how they contribute to your life. Earned income usually means that, hey, once you generate income, you have to consistently replace it. So trading time for money, like employees, and most people have one stream of income. That's where it is, earned income. Trade your time for money. If you're at the point of accumulating capital, totally fine. Let's accumulate some capital. And for me, actually, it's boring to just sit and look at my passive income. I do want to contribute. Everybody is different. And even if we look at the power team list, remember that for example, you're looking for a joint venture partner. You're looking for an investor. You are one of your investor's power team member as well. Okay, especially a lot of the times, if they're your colleagues, they're not trained, they actually look up to you for guidance. So again, overall, we have multiple streams of income because of circumstances. I'm a little bit older, so when I started investing, I have some RSP. I was able to generate some passive income. However, I'll tell you my story. I actually didn't start passively because I was too nervous. Regardless, I found this chart actually from my first mentorship with Tim. I changed some wordings. This is actually, I think Tim had it for at least 10 years. However, like I said, the fundamentals are pretty much the same. So when you look at income, if you want to generate generational wealth, start to look at income properties. However, it really depends on also your structure of the deal. If it's an income property, you joint venture with somebody else for 5 years, and you're going to sell the property, or you're going to decide how the joint venture partnership will change at the end. You might not be able to hold it long term. Then it's not generating long-term wealth, for example. So again, a lease option, I will go through how lease option works, just to give you an idea how the numbers work. However, if you look at the chart, there's portfolio income, there's earned income, and some are more passive than others. By the way, one more thing, I just realized that now I'm older, my kids are older too. It's not generational income. If you didn't tell your kids or teach your kids how it works. For example, if the joint venture, even though you can pass down your shares, pass down your portfolio, what if joint venture comes to term? If your kids don't know what to do with it, they're not able to hold the wealth. And a lot of the times it's distressed seller, not distressed property. Again, why are they distressed? For example, the kids inherit the building. They don't know what to do with it. And there are 3 or 4 brothers fighting for the property. They couldn't keep it. They're selling it. You're not taking advantage of the situation. You're there to help them solve the problem. So again, it's not generational wealth. If you pass it down to the next generation, they don't know what to do with it. So again, you can see that, hey, we constantly use different or utilize different strategies all together. I can give you one example. When I started lease option, my first couple of lease option deals were actually wholesale. I didn't keep them, and I just pass it down to the next investor. So again, you mix different strategies, and not to be partial, you do have to understand how money works. Even though I'm an instructor for creative financing, every strategy or even creative financing could be a strategy alone if you're working as the bank. And that's why at Trust Your Talent, we focus on, hey, 3 minimum strategies and 3 exits at the same time. So let's start from the first one, fix and flip. I start from fix and flip because for fundamental classes, distressed properties, even if you just watch HGTV, you might have an idea how fix and flip works. However, fix and flip it just one exit. You can fix the property and keep it and enjoy cash flow every month. Or as one of the exit strategies, you can flip it. So this is one of the flips I owned, and we purchased it at 540, first mortgage 432. This is the actual property. So I highlighted our investment in green. Again, simple numbers. ROI, return on investment, is how much in and how much out. Simple as that. That is return on investment. So everything I highlighted in green is the money I have to put in. The down payment, the closing cost, and we added a unit to the property. Again, things change. A lot of the times, for example, I thought I was going to keep this property for a long time. I ended up selling the property. So circumstances may change. Keep it flexible. It really depends. So if you add up all the money I put in, 146. Total cost of the property is 578, including what I put in and what the bank lent me as first mortgage. So all the money in, 578. We sold it for $700,000. So funds in and fund out. The total profit after I pay the bank and pay myself for the initial investment, the total profit is 121. Simple numbers. Again, how much in, how much out. The total I put in 146. After all the expenses, I was able to profit 121. So how much in, how much out? How much out is 121, divide that by 146. So that is my total return on investment. And I own that property for 2 years. Okay, you can analyze it, divide that by 2. This is just one example. Simple numbers, one strategy. And again, this is earned income, which means that, hey, now I don't own the property. If I want to continue to generate more income, this is an earned income and active income. That means I have to actively look for deals, actively buy and sell. So I use my story to inspire you and to tell you how I look at my goals and how it changed throughout my journey. I started with lease option. I wholesale because I wasn't comfortable as a newbie. However, after that, the lease option is a strategy that helped me reach my financial goal. Had enough passive income to replace my working income. If that's your goal, so like I said, in distressed property, opportunities came. And because now you have a lot of deals, you have to learn about creative financing. And even though I mentioned that, hey, these are the strategies I focused on in the beginning, creative financing or private lending, that one deal was actually the deal that helped me reach that financial freedom goal. If I was more comfortable and learn the strategy and actually action on it, perhaps I can reach my financial goal a little bit sooner. Everybody is different. Our goal is to get you there in 2 to 5 years. It took me 4 years. Okay, so really it depends on where you are. Later on, I got into multifamily. I'll tell you that, hey, a lot of the times cash flow properties might not look the prettiest. I think that's what kind of scared me to get into it first. However, now I learned that, hey, don't get emotional. Don't get emotional when it comes to investing. Everything we do is goal oriented. So I was actually staying at home with my kids for the longest time. When I started working, we paid a lot of tax. I didn't know how to manage our tax. We contributed to RRSP, and that's it, no other savings. So for me, if I'm able to prove that, hey, this actually works, I can actually replace my income utilizing real estate. So for me, lease option was a strategy that helped me do that, helped me see that. My goal for my book is to share my story with you, just like my resume. So everything we do, there's a purpose. I'm speaking in front of you, so whatever situation there is I'm put in, I hope that I can just stand there and start talking and hope to inspire you, educate you, and have fun with you. That is my goal. So even though I'm in my home, I do hope that one day we'll see each other in person. And I do realize that, hey, I have a voice. There is a purpose for me. My purpose is to also train myself, because speaking for me was one of the hardest things. Being an ESL, and also I actually felt a crazy shock to speak up. And
Hey, Brooke.
mhm.
Yeah, it's Richard here. It's a smaller group, and I have to leave, so I just thought to bid you goodbye. I also want you to know that there are a couple more new folks coming on. So and there might be I think I saw a question in the chat, so you might want to address that. But I'll leave you to it. Okay, I'll catch you next time. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you for your support, even though
Yeah.
you're on public transit, you're still joining us. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
See you later.
And one more thing, I just want to specify one more thing when it's about your goal. I put our house up there because, again, you have personal goals and you have internal goal and external goal. And being an investor, I was able to actually share. So if I look at building my house, that's how I actually started to get into infill. And now I'm comfortable getting into infill projects. So again, when it is a more advanced strategy, I trust your talent as well. You have to understand how money works and plan A, plan B, what ifs, what are the tools out there that's available to you. So again, I hope that once you reach financial freedom, you're not just sitting there. So Kevin, our financial freedom fighter, you might be wondering, what am I supposed to do next? So for me, I actually feel very inspired to see other people taking on the journey. So I hope to help you, inspire you. And I think everybody has the same purpose. If you find it hard to find a purpose, everybody should make the world a better place because of your presence. Okay, so if you learn, I already went through one strategy, fix and flip. If you can help other people to improve where they live, and even beyond money, it looks nice. It's actually very satisfying when you saw the picture I shared after a fix and flip, what it translates to you in your life. So if we look at different strategies, a flip, for example, not all the flips are the same. However, if you aim to reach your financial goal, this is just a guideline. For example, income properties, you should be able to generate $150 per door. However, you might want to pivot. Perhaps you're okay with $120, $100, etc., etc. Really, it depends on your goal. As a guideline and as a way to help you navigate and plan, put it down as a goal. Say, for example, I put down $1 million in portfolio. What if your goal, like how I went through my intro, what if my goal was to replace my working income? And when Richard shared earlier, it's funny that he said that. The longer it takes him to retire his partner, Kevin is going to get promoted. That goal will be higher and higher. Regardless, and at the same time, you're more trained, you're more educated. So income properties, for example, I know it was actually the hottest topic in the past year or so, because Single family mortgages are hard to get. However, I don't think that should be the reason you pivot to a different strategy. It really should start from you. If you want to generate passive income, like I mentioned, remember the chart? So keep that in mind. If you want to generate long-term wealth, then even though $100 doesn't look like a lot, think about how you're going to be able to scale. We went through one strategy. If you're able to say fix and flip, each project will bring you $20,000. If your goal is to replace the income, say 100,000, can you find 5 flips a year? Can you do one deal every 2 to 3 months? Okay. So everything we do, think about the goal, think about the purpose. If you're not learning anything today, more and more people are signing on. So if you're not learning anything today, then I'm not fulfilling the purpose. My goal is to help you reach your financial independence goal in 2 to 5 years. So Savan, nice seeing you here. I know you're relatively new in the community. So even from the beginning, at least you have a GPS to help you get started. Remember our goal, 2 to 5 years, and my goal with $1 million, for example, in your portfolio, if you don't have a lot of time to retire. And reach out, because we were, as a team, we were listening to Jim Rohn together, and he was talking about what if you're looking at your retirement goal in 15 years or 20 years. However, I think the reason you're here is that, hey, you want to be able to reach your goal in a more reasonable time frame. So remember the first strategy I went through, simple flip. Let's look at the second strategy, lease option. So within the time frame we have, I do hope that you get to see the power of the numbers. If it is your first time looking at lease option or street name rent to own, look at the numbers. Really, my goal here today is to reflect on you. How are you going to get started? What it brings to you in terms of cash flow. So call to action, if it's your first time looking at a lease option example, reach out to the strategy coaches. All of them have experience with lease options, and you can also reach out to myself. So all of our emails are first name at trustyourtalent.ca. So this is a typical lease option. I use this number because in a starter home, a lot of the tenant buyers, we call them tenant buyers, they're tenant at the moment. Once they're qualified and decide to exercise their right to purchase a property, they become owners, okay? So tenant and later become buyers. In this particular case, the purchase price, the actual house is there. $470,000, it's a 3-year term. The option to purchase, meaning that after 3 years, they can buy the property at $544. So in 3 years, they can buy the property at $544. They come in with $15,000. By the way, it's just something to get you started and get used to the terms. And in a lot of classes, we talk about different contracts. Remember, we do things ethically, legally. In order for a contract to take effect, you at least have to put $1, $2, an amount in the contract to have the right to do so. So initial option, we call it initial option, that basically gives them the rights, the option to purchase. In this case, $15,000 basically is your money in the buy, because you can utilize that $15,000 to put in the property or as cash flow or to close, lower your fee. Every month, the tenant buyer put in $3,550. So that includes the rent and monthly option, okay? Monthly option and initial option in the end will be credited back to the tenant. So basically you utilize that capital during the time they're tenants. So you can enjoy that cash flow or invest that money. 3550 minus mortgage, property tax, insurance. Remember, this is your cash flow every month. $1,650. This is a pretty good lease option deal. It varies, even if you have to share the wealth, 50-50. Find a partner. You can enjoy $825 of cash flow every month. So imagine what $825 could do for you. If you still have the qualification because you haven't purchased a property yet, you can enjoy that 1650. So for my very first deal, I wholesale for $6,000. I use that $6,000 to fly back to Taiwan to see my family. 6,000, by the way, that's a family of 4. So everything you do, just think how your life might change with that cash flow. So 1650 times 36 months, just run the numbers with me if it's your first time. About 60,000 is your income from cash flow. By the time you sell the property, remember that every month when you pay the mortgage, there's mortgage pay down as well. So by the time the property is sold, by the way, this property closed this year. So 544, how much in, how much out? Pay everybody off, pay the bank off, pay the legal cost, pay your investors for their initial investment. So the profit from sale is close to $50,000. Okay, so just run the numbers with me. Number 1, your cash flow. Number 2, your profit from sales. So your total profit is your cash flow and then profit from sales. Divide that by your initial investment. Remember how much in, how much out, return on investment. Of all the 3 strategies I'm going through with you today, this might be the one that's more number heavy. However, just think about the numbers and how it's going to contribute to your financial goal. So just over 100, divide that by your initial investment, how much out, how much in, that's your ROI. Divide that by 3 years. So this one strategy will provide 42% of return on your money. So how fast can you accumulate $1 million in your retirement fund if your money is not running at 4%, not at 6%? This is not always the case. However, even if you share the wealth, even if it's at 21%, how quickly can you reach your financial goal? If we do this consistently, if you have my book, it's chapter 4. So if it's your first time looking at the deal, let's run the numbers together. Again, here to support if you have more questions. I just use this typical lease option as an example, a solid 3 to 5 year plan. Part-time effort, because really you don't have to do this 9 to 5. Just do 1 deal every season. So consistently, again, the property have price at $470, 3 years initial option. Remember I mentioned $15,000 is your money in the buy. If we consistently do that and get $1,650 every month, even if you don't have the funds, you have to share the wealth, find a joint venture partner like Malas said in the beginning. Malas, can you explain this to your investor and show them how you can share the wealth? So again, if you can consistently do this, 4 deals, 1 deal every season. So the first deal, enjoy 11 months of cash flow. If the second season in April, you enjoy 8 months of cash flow. Let's do this consistently. Remember, 2 to 5 year plan. At the end of 4 years, you're gonna be able to generate an annual income of 244. Again, strategy 2. Okay, just 1 deal every season. I mentioned goal to strategy. Now we've run through 2 strategies. And you can keep in mind what each strategy is going to bring you. Remember the triangle? You can start to accumulate capital first. So you can buy and hold to create wealth. So just to give you an idea, even if you're able to just generate a cash flow of say $4,000 passively, that is like having another member in your household working for you. It's just that now it's the property. It's not actually somebody going to work 9 to 5. So if you're able to generate a $3,000 income or $3,500, if you just do 2 of those deals I mentioned earlier, 2 lease option deal, you have additional member in your household working for you passively. So if we look at, again, manage your time, budget your strategy, and budget your resources. 4 strategy every 2 months and work on 1 deal. So remember the summary chart. For example, if you have 1 service accommodation, just 1, $500 of cash flow every month. You have 2 distressed property deals, $25,000 each. Income property, that 10 means 10 doors, by the way, not 10 properties. Just 10 doors generate 1,500. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 deals. And lease option, 2 lease options. So 1 service accommodation, 2 distressed properties. You can run the numbers and you can mix up the strategies to see what fits you, what resources you have. So just with 4 strategies, every 2 months, for example, work on deal. So part-time effort, you can have a cash flow more than $4,000. More than $4,000 a month. By the way, by now, do you see your map towards your financial goals? If not, that's okay. Thank you for your support. If not, let's go through one more strategy. Strategy number 3, income properties. By the way, I know this is a beginner seminar. Just to give you some numbers to run. When it comes to income property, 4 units or up, the property itself, the performance will determine the value of the property. So I've seen also not so seasoned investor using single family, using cap rate, etc., using fancy terms to determine the value. However, when it's a smaller property, the bank doesn't look at the value based on the performance or the rent. They base on your ability to pay the mortgage. When it comes to income property, they base it on the performance of the property to determine, hey, what the value of the property is, what's the mortgage amount. So if it's your first time, there's a lot of indicators you're gonna run in the income property class when you start to analyze the deal. However, today we're gonna test run 3 strategies and see how they're gonna change your portfolio and change your wealth. Capitalization rate is basically NOI, your net operating income, divided by the purchase price, okay? Just look at the formula highlighted in green. I just wanna have one takeaway when you look at income property today. So it doesn't matter if you have no experience as an investor yet at this point, whether you're here with me or you're watching the recording. So if you look at the formula, basically net operating income, one more thing I do want to mention that, hey, it has nothing to do with cash flow at this point. We're just looking at the property value because net operating income doesn't include debt servicing or the mortgage you pay. It's just the performance of the building. Net operating revenue minus the expenses. Net minus the operating expenses. Okay, divide that by the purchase price. And usually there's a cap rate for particular markets. So if you change the formula around, if you know the net operating income of a property when you're evaluating a deal, divide that by the cap rate. That gives you an idea what the market value of the property is. Okay, if you just change the formula around. That's all I want you to take away from this formula today at this point. So if you look at the formula, that basically also means that if you flip it around, again, I mentioned grade 9 math, grade 10 math. I mentioned I want my kids to start learning. Flip the formula around. Net operating income, divide that by the cap rate. So say, for example, the cap rate for a particular market could be 5% or 6%. Usually, when you do your market analysis, you can find these numbers. It's not set in stone. However, it's an idea, a concept that when you evaluate the property, I just want to give you a few numbers you can quickly run as a new investor. To look at it, no emotion, just look at the numbers. Even though I showed you ugly pictures of 2 multifamilies earlier. So the purchase price, PP stands for purchase price. If there any abbreviation that I use you do not know or familiar with, reach out because I know a lot of you are still new. There's no questions that's too beginner at this point. Ask away. And if I put in something that I didn't explain, that is on me. For example, in this case, a 5% cap rate. So we calculate net operating income based on, and then the cap rate to give you the property value. So if we improve the property, say improve the net operating income, some ideas, increase the rent, reduce some expenses. And when you go through income property class, we'll talk about, hey, even if you add in a coin laundry, for example, to increase the revenue or rent out the storage room, storage units in the building, etc., you're going to improve the revenue. So improve the net operating income by $37,000. At 5% cap rate, you're going to increase the property value to $740. Okay, so basically you can see how much you can improve the performance by. This is just a quick calculation. Say, for example, you can increase the net operating income by $20,000, 20,000, whatever the cap rate is, divide that by, say, for example, the cap rate is 6%. That's how much the property value will be increased by. So, Savan, you have a question. It's a small group, so raise your hand if you have any question. I'm pulling out my calculator just in case. Hi.
So my question is, so when you're saying that income property, right? So say if the cap rate is 5% or 6%, and we calculate the property value, would the bank base on the cap rate with the property value to give you the lending value? Or it's still based on your personal income?
There's a lot of factors, by the way. So
Okay.
this is just one of them, and give you an example. Sometimes they look at, there were times where they were more conservative, really depending on the market. I'm thinking 6% cap rate. Maybe they're looking at 7. By the way, they also look at investor portfolio too. So there's a lot of factors involved. Another key indicator, for example, the ratio that they would be looking at.
The ratio. Okay. So because
Coverage
this is
ratio, for example.
Okay.
So
Because
this
this
is
is
just
income property, right? So actually the rental income will be part of the revenue, like the income from the tenant. So I'm just wondering how big, like how much would the bank consider that as a part of your mortgage payment ability?
Yeah, so that's exactly why they look at, hey, what's your net operating income? What's your net operating income? And they will also look at this interest rate, are you able, or the performance of the building, are able to afford it? Remember, this doesn't include mortgage yet.
Yeah.
So there's coverage ratio, there are other numbers they're looking at. My goal here is just to show you that, hey, you improve the performance, we're talking about accumulating wealth. You can actually generate wealth. Because a lot of the time, when we say forced appreciation, you're creating wealth. If you improve the building and then you were able to increase rent, you're actually increasing the value of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. A lot of the things that you're gonna be learning in the event class, like for example, lease option. I ran through the numbers, however, contracts are very important. How do you qualify the tenant buyers? How do you know you can help them? How do you know they can qualify? So with multiple strategies in hand, I mentioned that a lot of the time, really, it depends on how you structure the deal. For example, income properties, we say it's generating long-term wealth, legacy building. However, I see a lot of the times the partners decide to sell the property after 5 years because it's a joint venture or it's built in the contract that they're going to buy each other out in 5 years, etc. So a lot of the times, it's also the financial terms that determines if it's a long-term deal, what your multiple exit strategies could be, what will make sense. So flips, for example, a lot of the times, or I've involved in some short-term flips. In terms of financial strategy, we didn't get a mortgage because it's quick in, quick out. We don't want to encounter mortgage penalties, etc. So really, a lot of the times, it depends on the strategy and the terms. So I put down lease option, by the way, LO stands for lease option, SA, service accommodation. These are supposed to be midterm strategies because lease option, for example, 2 to 4 year contract, actually seeing 5-year contracts. Again, market changes. So a lot of the times, even though I provide you with a summary, things might change. Or again, we're flexible. At the same time, the fundamentals are the same. So long-term cash flow income properties, again, income properties. Service accommodation, you can hold it for a longer period of time. Or infill, and by the way, I'm looking at infill. A lot of people are looking at infills. They might look at it as a flip. Or if you infill and build a multifamily, you want to keep it long-term. So it really depends. In general, infill is a long-term strategy. However, when it comes to, you can also wholesale a multifamily. Then because of the strategy, it becomes a short-term strategy. Okay, so I just want to recognize that there are people putting in the chat. Okay, so thank you, Stephen, for joining us. So Stephen is our instructor for paper asset. Remember when we went through the chart, on top of the chart is actually paper asset income. Okay. By the way, I quickly went through 3 different strategies because remember 3x3, we always stand by 3 strategies. You have to learn how to exercise 3 event strategies, 3 exits every time you look at different deals. If there's only one strategy, especially if your strategy is buy, hold, and pray, that's really not a strategy, and there's no multiple strategies. So really think about how you're going to structure your portfolio to reach your, for example, $1 million goal. This year, I do want to share this with you. So action takers, thank you for spending the time with me today. I know some of you logged on a little bit later when we already started the discussion. Really, we all have financial freedom. We all have time freedom. We want to be here to contribute, and we're all action takers here. And that is why this year at Trust Your Talent, we focus on be about it, regardless of what other people say about you. So don't be shy. Don't be shy to turn on the camera and speak about your passion. I started by saying, hey, we're all real estate geeks or financial geeks. So love to talk about it, and you're surrounded by the right group of people. And be about it is actually from the Queen, Beyonce. So for me, true freedom is time freedom, and of course, health is important. So you can be like Kevin, having financial and location freedom. However, we have kids, so time freedom is a little bit tougher. And also choose to be with whoever, however way you want to spend your time. So I do want to share this video with you. This is where Be About started. So thank you for being here. I do see you as well. I do see you when you turn on the camera, even though we're in a virtual setting. So if you didn't realize that, this is actually the map I follow today. As a mentor or as trainers, we're here to guide you. This is the map. We start always from you, regardless of what advanced class you're taking, what strategies you're going to focus on. Why? Purpose, your goals. Then we get down to the strategies. I quickly went through 3 major strategies with you. However, the point is for you to take the next step. And if you're existing students, I still want you to be educated, to be inspired, and to have fun. And we love this environment, especially when we see the newbies coming on, because yes, there is a lot of people feeling uncomfortable taking that step. So as long as you take one step or several steps up, you're already taking yourself to the next level, and you're really be about it. You're taking actions today. We went through 3 sample strategies: flips, lease option, income properties. By the way, Savant, thank you for the questions. Yes, in each strategies, there's a lot more to it. Flips, wholesale, how are you going to structure your contract? What are your exits? What are the conditions? Lease options, we ran through the numbers. How do we set the contract price? How do we set the monthly payment? Income properties, there's a lot of key indicators. So Savant, good questions. Yes, cap rate is just one thing. I used cap rate to show you that, hey, you can actually create wealth if you can improve the performance of the building. And yes, the lenders will look at different things: your coverage ratio, the building itself, the market, etc. What are the situation? And currently CMHC rules. Why do the government structure the way they are? And tenant rules, by the way. So we focus on particular markets because tenant rules is also very big when it comes to planning. We're setting you up for success. I hope you do see the map today. So even for us, we constantly review every year, beginning of the year. do things change? I mentioned my kids are now older now. I actually have to update our will. We don't need a guardian anymore. He's 18. So remember that in the back, investor mindset, regardless of what strategies. If anything I said today resonates with you and you want to take yourself to the next level, reach out to the strategy coaches. They will guide you to the next level. If you don't have a strategy coach yet, your next step is to be with Steven, to go to our workshop, because I have an hour, 2 hours top with you. Steven really go deep with you. 2-3 days, immerse experience. So that's where I started in the workshop setting. So remember that we're here to invite you as part of the community. So the next workshop will be live in Vancouver. And Steven is enjoying the summer at the same time. Even though he loves golf, he's gonna spend the weekend with you in Vancouver at the workshop. So take a picture of it. And if you're already in the community, like Savon, you're new, invite your friends. Invite somebody to share the wealth with you. And Malaz and Kevin, we talked about investors. It's easier for them to join us to really know Malaz, Kevin, or existing students, what your philosophies are when it comes to investing. If you talk to Steven, talk to myself, we always follow the same path. We're gonna tell you the same thing. These are the rules we follow. So if you do want to be here with us, we do want to see you there. So this is what it's like to be at the workshop with us. Thank you everybody for being here today. I know you see some familiar faces in the video. So for those of you who will be joining, we will be seeing your faces in the videos too. And I'm gonna stay here as long as you have questions. I mean, this is the starting point. You might have a lot of questions. Regardless, I'm here as long as you have questions to stay till the end. Savon, I see your hand is still up. If you still have questions, let me know. Or perhaps you just didn't lower your hand after the previous questions. So I do recognize that, hey, it is late for some of us here. For me, it's almost 9 o'clock. So I do appreciate you for being here with me today. Next step is for you to learn a little bit more, to get deeper with Steven at our live workshop in Vancouver next. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you Malaz and Kevin for supporting. I know Vitally, I think I pronounced your name right. You might be working. Thank you for turning on the camera while you were working. Savon, thank you for joining. I know you might be busy, so you joined a little bit late. However, you're always welcome here.